What's up guys, it's Michael here. In this video, we're going to talk about student loan debt and forgiveness. So before I get into the video, please click the like button down below and the subscribe button and the bell notification icon so YouTube will notify you when I upload a new video. So let's get into it. So as you see, during the pandemic, the student loan crisis really got out of hand. And a lot of people didn't attend school, let's face it, because during that time, a lot of things closed down. They made it really difficult to go out and get food. A lot of families in America need money. So what did the current presidential do? They added loan forgiveness. So first it was announced to be at $50,000, then they dropped it down to $10,000. But you gotta remember this, as I mentioned before in previous videos, you can forget student loans like Bernie Sanders said, but the money that's owed, it doesn't go away. Somebody spent their time, their hours, part of their life providing a service, and either they will or will not get paid. So you gotta put it that way. It doesn't magically disappear. It's a cycle. Same with taxes, as I mentioned. So I contacted one of my friends who actually went through this process of student loans. As I mentioned before, when you pick a degree and you need a student loan, always pick the degree that suits benefit you, meaning you will make money from it. Please do not pick a degree that makes you no money from it or you have a really difficult time paying it off. For example, if you get an art degree, like I said, you can make a lot of money for it, only if you look at it as a business standpoint. If you look at it as a job or as like a hobby, you spend all that time, effort, and money, you don't make anything. You're basically signing your own death warrant in financial debt. So first, he mentions, looking at it, there are multiple type of loans you can take, because taking loans is actually a double-edged sword, meaning it could help you and at the same time it could harm you. So like taking loans to become a doctor, so you say you take, I believe, doctor like $50,000 a year, and you have expand to like a multiple years, like 4 years, I believe, at minimum, before you go to like, I believe it was internship, working basically for half pay. So that 4 years, you're getting top of all the residency. It's like it equals to $200,000. But when you come out with a doctor, you're making what, $200 or more, maybe $300,000. Then you can have a lot better time paying out the loan. By that time, you're being like your early to late 30s, maybe even 40s. So it's a really huge commitment you have to put through it. So looking at what you can do, as when you are taking a loan, first, if you don't have the money, then you have to find a way to pay it off. And there are 4 ways that he has mentioned. Huang, one of my friends, that mentioned that you can do. There's a couple of routes. So the first one he mentions is a grant. So grant is a money that you get with no strings attached. Their money is given to you free of charge, meaning they'll be prioritized for you to use for your studies and your tuition. That's what meaning is a grant. So you can apply for it. Usually they work for low-income household families. So what I mean by low-income household, as you can see, this channel is financially driven. So what I mean by low-income household, let's say like, how do they measure it? Like I mentioned before, why do the rich people get even richer? What happens? All their money went to, let's say, their business. Or let's say, oh, I take home only $50,000 a year. I am considered below the poverty line. Can I take a grant? But in reality, they're driving Lamborghinis, they're driving Ferraris, but shows on their W-2 when they file it, they're only making $50,000 a year, but their business is worth a couple $1 million a year because their businesses are not considered people. Just like that, that's a loophole right there. That can be used. Would people use it? They would use it, but a lot of people use that because they find it's a pain, it's a hassle, you get a grant, but that's a loophole. So a grant, you get money for free, no strings attached. Usually works for low-income families. And you look at the second one he has mentioned, which is pretty interesting. This one, I had it back in my high school days. I'm pretty sure a lot of people heard of it too and used it too. It's called scholarships. Scholarships itself requires you to perform academically well. So what I mean is, when you apply for a scholarship grant, you have to have an academic achievements. For example, ACT, you use in the East Coast, or SAT, used in the West Coast, sometimes in the East Coast too, depending what college you use to. And those things are used to grant you money. And mainly, whether it is or not useful, it only works for basically students who perform really well in school, whatever standardized test they use, and the ones that don't perform well do not get this type of grant, sadly. Going down to number 3, after past scholarships, is work study, meaning like a lot of people in doing college, I actually prefer this method because it gives you belt experience. So when you apply to another job, you can tell your employer like, hey, I got working experience. I know what to do compared to this new guy. And most of the time, those people with working experience, they can usually grow to be really potentially fast because they understand the workforce, they understand the mentality. It's different from school. A lot of people perform differently in a work-study session. So meaning you work part-time and you study part-time. Simple as that. And you don't have to take loans from that if you work through that way. So that way you can also, climb the corporate ladder, maybe even something sparks brand new, you start your own business related to your field or hobby job. So going down to number 4, as the last one, which fortunately a lot of people take, which are loans. So loans can vary many different type of loans. I'm just gonna break down, the most common ones. So you have 2 of them, direct and indirect. So direct subsidized loans are basically loans you apply for and you don't have to pay interest. But you don't have to pay interest, but the taxpayer has to pay interest because the government is covering your butt, meaning the rest of us will have to pay for the interest rates that you owe on that loan. So that's one that you can take, and the other one is direct and unsubsidized loans, meaning if it's not subsidized, then who pays for the interest? Then, of course, the person who borrows the loan pays for that interest. So those are the 2 type of main loans that people take. You can take it from many different companies, corporations. You can take it from other people who offer and supply it. So going down a list, what I mean by taking loans and student loan debt is a double-edged sword. So as he mentioned, going down the list, why and what is a typical optimal route you should take. So there's not really a direct answer we should take, because you think about it, taking loans itself, if you have to pay the interest back, then you still gotta work for it. If you don't have to pay the interest back, you still have to work for it. Meaning is you still have less of a burden, but the only burden you have is to make sure your job pays you well enough. Meaning you don't select a job that pays you nothing but scraps. You gotta select the right job, the right career, and you gotta make sure it works for you. If you don't, you have to think as a business mindset. Meaning if you take a degree that doesn't really pay you, you better make sure you better figure out a way within that time span, which is a college in America is about 4 years before you go to graduate program, or you take a loan for graduate programs like another 2, maybe 4 or more. During that time, you better build up a business that supports your career. And during that time, the loan will be totally worth it. If not, then you're digging yourself a grave. So what can you do? Because right now, based on what I've seen and what he said, is Biden offers a $10,000 loan forgiveness, which currently is being enacted, and also which is supposed to be $50,000. So at the same time, if he's not going to offer $50,000, which makes sense because someone who's going to have to shove up the money, us taxpayers, we still have to pay that off. So at the end, it's not really a win-win situation. It's more like a double L situation, because let's assume that you take the loan and you got a job and you couldn't pay off. Basically, you have to file for bankruptcy because you can't pay it off. And they forgive it, you're still pretty screwed because it's going to be locked onto you. And the taxpayers have to pay it. Basically, we both take L's. The government takes L, we the taxpayers takes L, and the student takes an L too. The win-win situation is you take the loan, they're able to pay it off, or the government pays for the interest rates, but you as an employee makes money and helps perform in society, and they pay the government back by paying taxes, by basic sales tax, income tax, and that's their win. What really is a bummer here for a student loan is I really hope that when people choose their degrees, colleges make it mandatory to tell people how much that degree costs. Meaning within that 4 years, you gotta take all these classes and this is how much it's gonna cost. But of course, colleges are not gonna do that because as I mentioned in one of my previous YouTube videos, colleges are built to make money. Even the public ones. Yeah, you know why? Because you think about why do children need to go to school? Why they always take attendance? Like what happens, like some kids don't want to go to school and they get all mad and call the parents because simple. More students that attend school, the more money they get from the government when they report back. As simple as that. It's a business profit driven society. Meaning is the reason why you go to school because you can work for society and perform your duties. And looking down, the last thing he mentioned, what type of loans can you get? Because during that time, during the pandemic, there's a lot of student loan forgiveness, and the one where Biden gave out $10,000 worth of forgiveness. The question is, he didn't mention how do you get it and where do you get it. He said you get it, but who gets it? Same with the stimulus check, who gets it? As simple as that. So based on what he has told me, which I didn't even know myself. Now it's time for you guys to learn with me. So the first one is actually teacher loan forgiveness, meaning if you cannot pay off a loan and you want to be forgiven, if you teach an individual teach for a full 5 consecutive and complete academic years and educational facilities. Let's say you got your education in like whatever degree, doesn't have to be teaching, maybe philosophy. You decide to teach a school for 5 consecutive years. You think about it, that's a long time. That's half a decade to pay off your student loan debt. Elementary, secondary, or service facility, a person is considered forgiveness. That's one way. I mean, it's nice that they have it, but like, do you really want to spend 5 years teaching at a school when you weren't like your whole entire degree wasn't meant for it? Number 2 is public service loan forgiveness, meaning is the individual works for a government entity and it's not for profit in organization, meaning you're working for free. The loan can be potentially, hear me out, potentially forgiven in full, and the requirement is 120 consecutive monthly payments from a qualifying full-time job. So work for a government entity or a nonprofit organization, 120 consecutive monthly payments. 120, think about that. 120 every year is 12 months. So they're asking you to work for a government facility for free for a decade. At that point, you're ready to go for the teacher opposition, because the opportunity there, you're spending an extra 5 months of work for free. Oh my God, this is so depressing. Going down to number 3, you have the closed school forgiveness. Oh, I think I heard of this one. So it states that if a school that an individual attended was to be closed before a person or after the person was able to graduate, they are offered to dispute the claim and have their loans forgiven. If I remember correctly, that was ITT Tech, private school entity that somehow closed and now it's getting federal investigation. So, yep, that's one option that could happen. And actually, that happened within, I believe that incident is probably within the past 5 years. So that's, one situation that could happen. And the last one, the fourth one, is total and permanent disability discharge. That one, I don't think anyone wants to be in that situation. Let's be honest here. If an individual was to be medically diagnosed to be disabled, then the person is eligible to have their student loans forgiven. And based on these 4 options, none of them are good. Let's put it this way. You have one, you work for free for 10 years. You have another one, you work basically low pay or nearly for free for 5 years. You have one that's really rare circumstances, and the only one I remember that happened in California with this for-driven profit college. I've never heard of, running ads on TVs and televisions and radio, and they went bankrupt. And the last one is you don't want to end in that situation, but if you have a really minor and you can pull it off, then yeah. But overall, student loans, as I mentioned in this video, is a double-edged sword. It can help you and it can harm you. So if you're gonna take a student loan debt, make sure to pick a degree that suits you, can make you back the money. If you don't pick a student, go with a student loan, or you go with a degree that doesn't really make you money and you still take a loan, then make sure that you have a business mindset. Make sure when you get out of college, you think to yourself, how am I gonna make this money? How can I make this money back? As I mentioned in one of my previous videos, an art degree, you can still make a lot more money than doctors. You can sell art, you can sell figurines, you can use that expertise in your art degree to design products and services that people want and pay a massive amount of money. And marketing too. So that's all I have for this video. So as for sort of student loan debt, just think of this. When you see every situation on debates, either it's political or non-political, think about that. The main motive that everyone should think about is not whether, it's right or left. It's always about financials, meaning is the financial motivated to do this point A to point B? What is it gonna cost? Because at the end, it's all about money. Because money drives society, and same thing with student loan debt, because it's a big business. So that's all for this video. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.